Shalom. Welcome to another video. And as always, before I get started, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rahwadash, and next double honors to the head apostles / elder bishops of the great millstone who teach and who rule well. Peace, blessings, and safety to all you sincere Akim. Keep pushing, keep believing, and keep the faith, regardless of what people hear or what do they forbear. All right, so this is going to be a reaction to this clip that I have put up on the screen. It's from a channel known as Democracy Now! And it's an interview with this woman here, Carol Anderson. I believe that she is an author, okay, but she's going to talk about pretty much the mind state of so-called white Americans that they have towards, this system, specifically on a systematic level, that they have towards, so-called Negroes, okay, which the tribe of Judah, okay, according to biblical prophecy, all right, which this same mindset applies to all of the tribes, all right, the Southern Kingdom and the Northern Kingdom, both the so-called Negro and indigenous tribes, all right, but she's going to go into, the mindset that they have, okay, which prompted me to entitle this video, Liberty, Freedom, and Justice for All was never meant for everyone. All right, it was never meant for all so-called American citizens. All right, and we see that even though it's on the books, okay, we see it, by the way that they move, by their practices. Okay, so let's go ahead and play the clip, and then of course, as always, I'm going to stop and interject with scriptures. And Yahweh righteous, I mean the Heavenly Father's will is edifying to the elect.
Yes, and so it was the killing of Philando Castile. I start off the book going, it was like a snuff film because we all saw that video image and it was horrific. It was jarring. And to then get the backstory that this was a man who followed NRA guidelines saying, letting the officer know that I have a licensed carry weapon with me. You have asked for my ID. I am reaching for my ID. And the officer begins to shoot. So he is killed because he has a weapon. Not that he is brandishing the weapon, not that he is threatening anyone. He simply has a weapon. And that really led me to begin on this journey as I saw the NRA's virtual silence on this journey to figure out, do African Americans have Second Amendment rights? We're in this moment where the Second Amendment is like hallowed ground. It is sacred. It is one of those things that has been defined as the bedrock of citizenship. And so I started looking. And as I went on this journey, what I saw was that it wasn't about guns. It was about the fear of Black people. It was about the fear of Blackness. It was about the societal labeling of Black people as dangerous, as a threat to whites, and that this architecture comes in place in order to contain this Black population, in order to provide security and safety to the white community from this fear of Black people. And you get this really weird matrix happening where Black people are feared but needed. And so it is how do we contain them? How do we snuff out their quest for freedom? How do we snuff out their quest for their basic human rights while also keeping them as labor without rights? How do we do that? How do we make that subjugation happen? How do we?
Okay. All right. So you heard it. Okay. That's hey, she summed it up perfectly. And the Lord wanted me to see this because I'm subscribed to this channel, but I don't even really watch it. And I was taking a nap and I woke up to this part of the interview and I said, hold up. I said, hold up. Let me say, hold up. Wait. I said, I got to rewind that back. Okay. And I went back and listened to it and I said, man, she is speaking facts. All right. That is pretty much the mindset towards Jake in this society. Okay. Is that she said, they hate us, but they also have a need for us because they need someone here to run their society. Okay, and what we're seeing with this AI too, a lot of the reason why now they're trying to push out Jake is because the mission has been accomplished. Okay, they've built up wealth off of free labor and stolen land. All right, and now that they have AI, they don't really need us to be human servants anymore. They're getting ready to set up robots and all that kind of stuff to do that. So now they're looking on a way to get us out of here so that they can enjoy their kingdom. All right, and she said something very important. She said, "How can we snuff out their desire, for free will, the desire for rights, the desire for freedom, et cetera, et cetera? How can we snuff that out?" Okay, so all right, the way that they do that is through propaganda. Okay, so let's go ahead and get a quick precept real fast. Not a precept, so lock in. I got another video clip I'm gonna pull up. Just 1 second. 1 second, y'all bear with me. Hey, Shalom. Shalom, Yahweh Shemal Shabrakatah. What's up, man?
Yeah, I was at Salaki, goddamn. I mean, that was a long day fucking break, but I was at work. We had called, and then fucking time just sped up on my ass.
Hey, Con, don't worry about it. It's all good. I'm just I was just calling to let you know that we're gonna be in Atlanta for in a couple of days. We flying in Saturday morning, so we'll be ready. Have camp with you, brother, Saturday morning. Just wanted to let you know that.
Okay, yeah, for sure. We should be fellowshipping somewhere. I know the fight song is Saturday too, so.
Okay, Con, no doubt. Hey, well, I'm actually live right now. So.
Oh, okay.
I'm okay. Nah, you good. It's all good. Don't worry about it. I'm live right now, but I'm like I said, I'll give you a call when I'm done. All right. Okay. All right. How about you, Mr. Barakatah? All right, Shalom. All right, Salaki. So switch tabs real quick. All right, and okay, on this one, I got a clip. She talked about snuffing out their desire for freedom, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, I got a quick clip I'm gonna show you guys. All right, and this one is from let me see. In fact, I know how to find it. It's on a web page called
This is the American Life League.
American Life League. Let me go ahead and pull it up right quick. All right, so she talks about one of the main ways that they did that was by setting up the so-called black church. Here's the video right here. Okay, let's see. So, all right, you're gonna listen to this. Listen to this. What this woman says is crazy, but this is why we tell you. Okay, and we've woken up from this.
I'm Michael Hitch
Because the Plantation Christian Church. Okay, that's why we call them that, because on the plantation, what did they do when they wanted to keep the slaves docile, stop them from being free? All right, they gave them the slave Bible and they gave them white Jesus. All right, and every time, and still to this day, that same mechanism is still in effect. Every time a so-called when we talk about Esau and we reveal who the Edomites are, and we bring out the judgment that they're going to get for all the things that they've done. All right, then our people they get upset with us. All right, when we're talking, all we're doing is bring up the facts, but that's because in their mind we're going against God Himself. That's how they see it, because the white man pretty much is their God. All right, but let's go ahead and listen to what Margaret Singer had to say.
The Birth Control Review.
The Negro problem is one of the most complicated and important confronting America.
And by the way, let me know if we got sound, because I know that. Let me test it real quick. Okay, yeah, we got sound. We're good to go. All right, let's keep listening.
Whatever the ultimate answer may be, such an attitude brings to light the function of birth control as the necessary agency in its solution. The present submerged condition of the Negro is due in large part to the high fertility of the race under disastrously adverse circumstances. Thus, the question arises, to what extent birth control has had a eugenic effect upon the Negro race?
If any question should remain.
Now, let me get it before we continue. I'm gonna get a quick precept on this, okay? Because essentially, she created Planned Parenthood, all right, and pushed that whole abortion thing, and specifically designed, for Jake, because they want to try to keep our numbers low, all right? Because just like in ancient Egypt, all right, Jake was reproducing very quickly, Okay, which matter of fact, before I'll let the video play and then I'll get the precepts on it. So Jake reproduces very quickly. Okay, both southern and northern kingdom. And in ancient Egypt, all right, what did they do? They tried to kill all the male children. All right, they told the Hebrew midwives to kill all the children that were males. All right, so they were trying to discontinue the lineage of the Israelites, and they did the same thing here in America, Babylon the Great, and they just did it in a more insidious way. All right, they did it through Planned Parenthood, the birth control propaganda, the abortion propaganda, et cetera, et cetera. All right, because once again, okay, the person who created it, Margaret Singer, the ones, you know, the voiceover, all right, she called so-called Negroes human weeds. Okay, that was her mindset, and that's how a lot of these Edomites feel. But as we heard the first woman, Carol Anderson, say, she said they're in a dilemma, they're in a matrix because they hate us and they want to eradicate us, but at the same time they have a need for us because they need somebody to do the lower level menial jobs, you know, the low paying minimum wage jobs. They need people to do that stuff. So they're in they're kind of in a conundrum. Okay, but let's keep listening on to see what this woman had to say.
About Sanger's racist agenda, a 1939 letter she wrote to Dr. Clarence Gamble should remove all doubt.
We should hire 3 or 4 colored ministers, preferably with social service backgrounds and with engaging personalities. The most successful educational approach to the Negro is through a religious appeal. We don't want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is a man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members.
Okay, so all right, so who would be those rebellious members today? That's talking about us. Okay, because hey, we're she said we need to snuff out those ideals. We can't have that we can't alert them to the fact that we want to exterminate them. Okay, and this letter was written in 1939. Okay, so this wasn't that long ago. This was less than 100 years ago. All right, this woman, if she had, I don't know much about her, you know, her background, but if she had grandchildren, they're 99% chance they're probably running around alive today. Her children are probably running around alive today. Okay, you think that this mindset just it stopped because of the Civil Rights Act in 1965? No. All right, the Edomites back then, okay, their descendants have the exact same mindset as they do, and they're getting sick of hiding it, which is the reason why Trump got elected with the whole "Make America Great Again" thing. All right, what they really mean is take America back to these times. Okay, but the main point, the reason I showed you this video is because once again, all right, they set up these black pastors just like they did in slavery, to where if the slaves, the people that were in subjection started to get fed up, that they would keep you under wraps, and that's the same thing they're trying to do today. Okay, the Hebrew Israelite ministry is extremely demonized, all right, by the plantation black pastors because, well, for one, we're taking their money because people are starting to wake up to the truth and they're leaving their congregations. That's number one. All right, but number two, because once again, the slave masters offended because too many are starting to recognize the conditions that they're in, and they're starting to get fed up with it. All right, but see, back then, it wasn't time yet for the full awakening to happen. Okay, now we're in that time where the Lord has put the Holy Spirit on certain men, all right, to wake up the rest of the nation. Okay, or I should say the elect. All right, and the Lord is getting prepared to deliver us. Okay, we're not going to be, you know, under these conditions with these people anymore. All right, let's continue on the video. I'm gonna get some precepts after the last 40 seconds.
Can there be any wonder why Planned?
All right, that's it. So let's go to the scriptures now. All right, we'll go to Exodus chapter 1. It's either chapter 1 or chapter 2 is what I'm thinking of. All right, so this is Exodus chapter 1, and I'm gonna start at verse let's see, Exodus chapter 1, and I'm gonna start at verse 7. It says, "And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them." Okay, and that's happening. The same thing's happening today in this spiritual Egypt. They say that, you know, that so-called white people will be the minorities. I think they said like 2045 or something like that. So within 20 years. All right, but really they're already the minorities. Worldwide, they only are 7% of the world's population. Okay, and this is my personal opinion. All right, you put all the Israelites together, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Indigenous. Okay, Caucasians already are the minority. Okay, especially on the West, like out here where I'm at, El Paso, Texas, and anything west of this is completely dominated by Jake. All right, mostly Northern Kingdom, but you also have a lot of Southern Kingdom around here as well. Okay, so in my personal opinion, they're already the minority. All right, in a lot of areas. All right, but anyways, same thing was happening. Okay, they were exceeding greatly, just like they are today, and multiplying. It says, verse 8, now there arose a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more mightier than we. Come and let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when they falleth out any war, they join also into our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore, they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramesses. It says, but the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. Okay, sound familiar? It's the exact same thing going on today, man. Okay, the more that they do that to us too, the worse conditions that we're in, actually it makes us multiply even more, because actually, statistically, most so-called developed countries, Western countries, where they have a strong economy and all that, people actually, the birth rates are low because everybody's so focused on capitalism that they're not focused on community, family. All right, when you're poor, all you have is each other. So that's gonna, of course, it's gonna cause Jake to and it's gonna cause Jake to multiply, because you're constantly around other people. All right, you're in the community. All right, but when it comes to Esau's way, which is consumerism, capitalism, it's all about money, this and that. All right, that causes people not to really to lose touch with themselves and with the people around them. So of course it's going to lead to lower birth rates, and then with everything being so expensive, which is done by design, people don't really want to have children, especially in the times we're living in right now. And I would advise you not to really just wait until the kingdom of heaven comes in. Then we're going to have many children in the kingdom, but as of right now, right now it's not a good time to do so. For that exact reason. But anyways, let's keep reading. It says, Exodus 1:14, and they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in brick and in all manner of service in the field, and all their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. Verse 17, it says, and the midwives feared the Most High, and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, why have ye done this thing, and have saved the men children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively, and are delivered ere the midwives come in unto them. All right, so pretty much they're having children very quickly. Okay, reading the NLT, make it a little bit easier to understand. All right, in the NLT, it says, the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women. The midwives replied, they are more vigorous and have their babies so quickly that we cannot get there in time. Okay, let's keep reading. It says, verse 20, therefore the Most High dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed mighty. And it came to pass, because the midwives feared the Most High, that he made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast it into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive. So, okay, that was Pharaoh's answer. All right, in other words, to kill babies. Okay, same thing that Margaret Sanger had planned to do. Okay, and she said, if anybody gets the idea that this is what's happening, that we want to exterminate them, we need to set up and pay off, black ministers, black Christian pastors, all right, to pretty much destroy any of those notions. Okay, don't allow anyone to get rebellious against us, and that's exactly what they're set up for today. It's the exact same thing. Okay, but the Lord, he has left a remnant, and the remnant is not going to be fooled by that nonsense. Okay, you know exactly what it is. All right, and the Lord is getting ready to free us from the hands of our enemies. We're not going to be under those that hate us for much longer. All right, this is Isaiah chapter 10, and I'm going to skip down to verse 20. Okay, bear with me. Isaiah 10 and 20. It's entitled, A Remnant Shall Return. It says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel, matter of fact, I'm going to get this in the NLT. All right, bear with me. Okay, in the NLT, same chapter, Isaiah 10, starting at verse 20 in the New Living Translation. All right, it says, hope for the Lord's people. In that day, the remnant left in Israel, the survivors in the house of Jacob, will no longer depend on allies who seek to destroy them. Okay, and our people, they've made alliances with the Edomites. All right, starting off with these plantation black pastors. Okay, they have made alliances with Esau by way of their 501c3 charter. There's certain things they're not allowed to talk about, and it goes all the way back to the days of slavery. They did the same thing back then. All right, they told the pastors, the black pastors that they set up over the slaves, you know, pretty much to teach them all scriptures that they thought would further their agenda to push them deeper into complacency of being enslaved. All right, to keep them complacent with their position in life. So it says that they're no longer going to depend on those allies who seek to destroy them, but they will faithfully trust the Lord, the Holy One of Israel. A remnant will return. Yes, the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty God. It says, but though the people of Israel are as numerous as the sand of the seashore, only a remnant of them will return. The Lord has rightly decided to destroy his people. 2/3. Okay, and that's the exact reason why, because they joined unto Esau, so they're defiled. It says, yes, the Lord of heaven's armies, has already decided to destroy the entire land. Verse 24 says, so this is what the Lord of heaven's army says, O my people in Zion, do not be afraid of the Assyrians when they oppress you with a rod and club, as the Egyptians did long ago. Okay, and this is the Assyrians and Egyptians are spiritual, you know, aliases for the oppressors. It says, in a little while my anger against you will end, and then my anger will rise up to destroy them. It says, verse 26, the Lord of heaven's armies will lash them with his whip, as he did when Gideon triumphed over the Midianites at the rock of Oreb, or when the Lord's staff was raised to drown the Egyptian army in the sea. Okay, so he's going to work miracles to save his elect in these last times. It says, in that day, the Lord will end the bondage of his people. He will break the yoke of slavery and lift it from their shoulders. Okay, because slavery never ended. They just got more crafty with it, like the woman said in that first clip. So let's go back to that. All right, let's go back to that first clip I was playing. Let's see if it got sound. All right, bear with me.
We talk about in this land of the United States of America, how do we talk about freedom, but try to keep it contained from this Black population? We don't want them getting the ether that we're talking about in this revolutionary moment about freedom and democracy and justice. We don't want them hearing the words about equality. How do we do that? And when there was a
right, so they're very crafty. She said that we don't want them thinking about freedom and this and that. You know, I'm gonna rewind it because she said a lot. I want to go back and hear the full thing again. All right, she said we don't want them thinking about that. So the deception is multifaceted, and essentially that's what this truth breaks you free from. Okay, is that mindset of a slave, because you're programmed, your whole life is programmed around them keeping you in that position of subjection. All right, let's skip back a few minutes.
Threatening anyone, he simply has a weapon. And that really led me to begin on this journey, as I saw the NRA's virtual silence on this journey to figure out, do African Americans have Second Amendment rights? You know, we're in this moment where the Second Amendment is like hallowed ground. It is sacred. It is one of those things that has been defined as the bedrock of citizenship. And so I started looking. And as I went on this journey, what I saw was that it wasn't about guns. It was about the fear of Black people. It was about the fear of Blackness. It was about the societal labeling of Black people as dangerous, as a threat to whites, and that this architecture comes in place in order to contain this Black population, in order to provide security and safety to the white community from this fear of Black people. And you get this really weird matrix happening where Black people are feared but needed. And so it is how do we contain them? How do we snuff out their quest for freedom? How do we snuff out their quest for their basic human rights, while also keeping them as labor without rights? How do we do that? How do we make that subjugation happen? How do we talk about, in this land of the United States of America, how do we talk about freedom, but try to keep it contained from this Black population? We don't want them getting the ether that we're talking about in this revolutionary moment about freedom and democracy and justice. We don't want them hearing the words about equality. How do we do that? And when there was a revolt in Virginia in 1800 with Gabriel, and Gabriel had fed on the language, the revolutionary language from the United States, from the French Revolution, and from the Haitian Revolution. That sent shockwaves throughout the United States. And Virginia was trembling at the expansiveness of Gabriel's revolt. And the response was, the wrong people are getting the word about freedom and democracy. The wrong people are hearing this revolutionary language and thinking that.
Okay, right. That's it. That's the sentiment. The wrong people are hearing this revolutionary language. In other words, all right, that's why you niggas look like complete jackasses celebrating July 4th, because July 4th, 1776, we were still in chains. All right, and to this day, there is what's what I'm looking for. There's systems that are set up designed to keep you in mental slavery. Okay, and it's multifaceted. All right, everything you listen to is designed to keep you complacent. Even with the music, which we always go into that. Okay, the music pushes, chasing a bag, blah blah blah, this and that. All right, even if you're wealthy on this side, you got to work and strive to get so-called wealth. All right, which really it's just a piece of paper. All right, money, that's all it is. It's just a piece of paper that they print out of thin air. While at the same time, while they took the land, they took livestock, which is pretty much the word I'm looking for. I guess you could say replenishable wealth. All right, it grows on its own. While they took that, they gave you a piece of paper and then told you that you're rich. All right, and Jake is so caught up in that mindset that they're completely blinded to what's really going on behind the scenes. Okay, so this thing is multifaceted. If they don't get you with the music and the chase the bag culture, then they'll get you with the religion. All right, which Christianity for the most part is just covetousness. All right, it's lawlessness. They tell you that law the Heavenly Father is done away with. All right, it's a perversion of the gospel, because the gospel is for the freedom of the Israelites that are in captivity under Esau, according to biblical prophecy, and to the end. But they tell you that the kingdom of heaven is for everybody. So when we start to bring out the truth of the scriptures of what the Lord is going to do, all right, how he's going to take his poor and afflicted people and he's going to raise them up and he's going to destroy those that oppress them, which that's good news if you're in your right state of mind. But they're so, like I said, they're so spiritually blind, they're so gone that to them, they think that's wrong, that's racist. Okay, so it's multifaceted, man. They get you in many different, ways. But see, the scriptures, understanding of prophecy, frees you from that. Okay, because now and really, like I said, they tell you that, they say, oh yeah, we're all equal, this and that, but that's only in word. Okay, in practice, who do you see on the bottom? Who do you see on the top? And when you go to a resort, who do you see relaxing at the resort, and who do you see serving the person that is relaxing? Okay, so it's all just talk, man. All right, it's all just one big illusion, because they got more crafty with it. All right, they give you they give you little gifts and trinkets. Jake think because they get a job that they free. Okay, no, you're just a slave with a few extra steps. That's it. All right, and as long as you don't realize that you're a slave, then it's all good. And then if you do start to realize, okay, that this ain't the best conditions, then they push consumerism. They push that whole, you got to have designer this, designer that. All that's doing, and that may not be the correct word for consumerism, but pretty much keeping up with the Joneses. That's a mindset that's pushed primarily on us. You don't see when you look at rich, wealthy, Edomite men. Okay, they don't give a damn about wearing Prada and Gucci. They don't care about that because it's worthless. It's not any different in the clothing that you get at Walmart or Target. All right, the only difference is the brand. That's it, the brand name. And Jake is so caught up in that keeping up with the Joneses that they'll go and pay $1,000 for a T-shirt. Okay, well, all you've done, you could have invested that $1,000 into something that's actually useful. All you've done now is further yourself into being a slave because now you have to recuperate. You have to recoup that $1,000 that you spent on something frivolous. Okay, but to Jake, this is a badge of honor. All right, to those that are spiritually awakened, you look like a complete jackass. But to most of our people, all right, to spend $600 on a pair of shoes, that's a badge of honor. They'll put it on they'll leave the price tag on it so everybody can see, yeah, I spent this amount on these new J's, on this, on that, on Prada, on Gucci. Okay, that's all you're doing is putting more money back into the Edomite's pocket. Okay, because they're the one who set these trends. They pay these celebrities, and they pay these celebrities to wear these different brands that are extremely expensive, right, to make it look like this is the popular thing to do. Because black people also, as the scriptures say, are sottish, all right? So-called Negroes and the Israelites, period, are sottish. They care about, flashy, shiny things. Okay, so they pay these celebrities, and then they put whatever price tag they want on it, knowing that they know damn well you don't make no more than $30 an hour if you're lucky. All right, but yet you paying $600 for a pair of shoes. You do the math on that. How many hours of work did you have to do to get that one pair of shoes when you could have went down to Target or Walmart and bought you this almost exact same pair of shoes without the name brand for a tenth of the price? Okay, but Jake don't see it like that, man. And the reason why they don't is because they're drunk off that Babylon juice. Or they're drunk off of Esau's philosophies, his wine. Okay, and they get you in many different ways. Okay, so this is what she's describing. She's not able to articulate it probably in the way that I'm breaking it down from a spiritual standpoint, but this is what's happening. All right, they set up all kind of systems in place, all right, to keep you complacent and complicit in your lowest state in society. Okay, and that's what the gospel is all about. The Lord is going to take up those people that are poor and afflicted, and he's going to raise them up into a place of great glory and honor, okay, for the righteous of our people. All right, let's continue on with the video.
That it applies to them. So this was the journey that I was on to hear and to get into this milieu of how frightening, how dangerous Black people were seen as, and then to follow it all the way through to the 21st century by looking at, do Black people have the right to bear arms? Do they have the right to a well-regulated militia? Do they have the right to self-defense? And seeing how in each of those, it has been used against Black people. And that the legal status of Black folk has not altered that significantly. So whether enslaved, whether free Black, whether denizen, which was that halfway limbo land between enslaved and citizen, whether newly emancipated freed people, whether Jim Crow Black, or whether post-civil rights African American, the right to bear arms, the right to a well-regulated militia, and the right to self-defense are in fact fractured. That citizenship is fractured. It is hobbled by this intense anti-Blackness, this fear of Black people, this sense of Black people as a danger to white American society.
Okay, all right, that's it. She said what she was gonna say. So let's bring out a few more precepts. I'm gonna wrap it up. All right. In other words, I have a law for me and a law for thee. Okay, but Yahushua, once again, he's coming to free us from all this crap that we put up with here in this society. All right. This is I'm gonna get this in the King James version, John the 8th chapter. Like I said, we're gonna wrap it up. All right, and this is how it is. This is how they see anybody who's not of their ilk, anybody who's not an Edomite. This is how they look at you. But they have a hierarchy that they've established based off of skin tone for the most part, all right, for the purpose of being able to oppress and having justification to do so. All right. But this is St. John chapter 8 and verse 32. It says, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. All right. So, okay, this word, it frees you in many different ways, but most importantly, it frees you spiritually and mentally. Okay, so you're not caught up in this matrix anymore. And we also understand that this place is set for demolition. Okay, America, Babylon the Great is set to be destroyed. The people that rule over it are set to be destroyed. They're going to be put in subjection. All right, so we're not going to deal with this much longer. All right, I'm going to skip down to verse 36. It says, if the Son therefore shall make you free, ye shall be free indeed. Okay, and that's it. All right, and he's going to set us free, man. That's the gospel. Let's get it out of his own mouth. Let's get Luke 4 and 17. All right, matter of fact, I'm probably start up a little bit for context. All right, this is Luke chapter 4. Yeah, I started at verse 17. It says, and there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah, and when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written, the Spirit of the Lord, Yahweh, is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and recovering of the sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised. And that's all talking about Jacob, man. All right. Esau is not. How are you a captive, and you rule? You're the ruling nation. Your money, your face is on the money. You control everything. All right. No, the captives is talking about those under the curses, being ruled over by their enemies that always seek to destroy them constantly throughout, ever since the inception of this country, man, even and before then. All right, you go back to the Greek and the Roman empires, okay, and even before then, all the heathen nations have had a piece of Jacob, man. All right, but this is the final captivity, and we're going to be set free. Verse 19, it says, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. And he closed the book, and he gave it again to the minister, and sat down, and the eyes of all them that were in the synagogue were fastened on him. Now we're going to go to what he was reading to get greater detail on it. And this will be the last one that we read, and we'll close it out. All right, Isaiah, the 61st chapter. And you see what it says? It says, exaltation of the afflicted. All right, is everybody afflicted? Okay, a Christian will say, well, we're all afflicted through sin, brother. All right, well, hey, last time little Timmy grew up with a silver spoon in a mansion on a 50-acre lot with boats and jet skis and all that. All right, while little Tyrone, I grew up in a one-bedroom apartment with 6 siblings, you know, gunshots at night, helicopters flying around. Okay, we ain't the same. All right, they not like us. This is Isaiah 61 and 1. The Spirit of the Lord Yahweh is upon me, because Yahweh hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound. Okay, and the prison house is America. All right, this is one big open air prison. All right, it says, verse 2, to proclaim the acceptable year of Yahweh and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn. So when he comes back, all right, he's coming back to free some people and to execute vengeance on others. And this is the part where people get offended at. All right, because like I said, their slave masters offended. All right, but when the Lord comes back, he's going to execute justice. All right, it says, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion. All right, so he's telling you who it's for. To give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of Yahweh, that he might be glorified. Verse 4, excuse me. And they shall build the old waste, they shall raise up the former desolations, and they shall repair the waste cities, the desolations of many generations. And the strangers shall stand and feed your flocks, and the sons of the aliens shall be your plowmen and your vine dressers. So now the ones who were enslaved are going to have slaves. Going to be complete reversal of situations, trading places. But ye shall be named the priests of the Lord. Men shall call you the ministers of our God, and ye shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in their glory shall ye boast yourselves. For your shame ye shall have double, and for confusion they shall rejoice in their portion. Therefore, in the land they shall possess the double. Everlasting joy shall be unto them. And that's it. Okay, that's the gospel. All right, out of the Lord's mouth himself. He read it in Luke, the 4th chapter. He's reading out of Isaiah 61. All right, so that's pretty much it. There you go. That's it for the video. Okay, one is entitled, "Liberty, Freedom, and Justice for All" was never meant for everyone. All right, not on this side. Okay, it was meant for E. All right, for the most part, and that's it. Okay, but the Lord, He's going to be the one to come and deliver liberty, freedom, and justice for us in that day. All right, so we look forward to it. I'm going to close it out there. Heavenly Father's will. It was edifying as always. I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachash. And until next time, Shalom and Abide Babal.